Your creative career cannot support all of your goals. Creator goals, like business goals, dictate the decisions you make in that career or hobby. For instance, if you want financial security, you build a business around your YouTube channel, your podcast, your book. If you want creative expression, maybe it's just a hobby or side hustle because getting the idea out is. If you want connection, you build a community or movement around your creative idea or artistic insight. And if you want more impact or service, you focus on how do you get people activated and thoughtful, the cultural impact and usefulness of the thing that you're creating lead to frustration, slow progress, or giving up altogether. Unclear goals can really hit you there, or if you focus on one of the goals that we're going to talk about in general, it'll lead to misery and burnout because if all these different goals that you can have and should have for your life as a creator or just as a human, it's like your body. If you're only doing arms day, you're going to have chicken legs, right? It's not going to be balanced and you'll run into problems with lifting stuff, break your legs and stuff like that. That's what we're talking about in today's episode of The Meaningful Revolution. I'm your host, Shawn. And let's get into a quick story. So, we mentioned that knowing your goals dictates the types of decisions that you make. And as a creator, there's different types of goals. We'll get to that here in a second. But if you think of a company like Apple, right? I worked at Apple for 5.5 years and past out of history. There was a time in Apple's career where they had 90 days when they were going to go bankrupt, right? And this is right around when Steve Jobs got hired back into the company. There were so many different product lines, all sorts of different types of Macs, all sorts of different types of PCs, sorts of laptops, bunch of accessory business lines like printers and what. And they're doing all of this stuff and a lot of innovative stuff, but they weren't fulfilling the one goal that a company should fulfill, and that is financial stability, right? So the money wasn't working. They were going to go out of business if something didn't change. So Steve Jobs came in. He could have continued doing product lines like the printers that were top tier. I think they were one of the first companies to do laser printing. So they stopped their printer line, right? And that could have been a challenge to make the best printers ever and to continue owning the product space. It could have been a legacy thing of consumer products, but they said, no, we're going to switch into only doing 4 things out of 100. And those 4 things, they were going to do a desktop and a notebook, and they're going to have a consumer tier and a pro tier. So 4 products total: a consumer desktop, a pro desktop, a consumer notebook, a pro notebook. In 90 days, they turned around, and from that refocusing and realizing what the company was there for, it wasn't there to create tons of cool innovation for the sake of innovation. It was there to provide financial stability for the organization. They were able to turn it around. Now Apple's one of the biggest consumer goods companies in the world. The takeaway from this story is that you need to focus on things that matter for your desired outcomes. Focus on the winners and focus on your desired outcomes, but also know that there's other areas in your life that you need to fulfill, especially as a creator. Maybe you are putting all your creative capacity into building a business for financial stability, but you still have these other things that we're going to talk about. So I know you might be thinking, but maybe I don't want to make an idea off of my book or my podcast. I just love doing the thing that I'm doing. And that's totally fine, right? That creative expression is being fulfilled by your art or your craft. More power to you. Or you might also think that I love my work so much and it should fulfill everything in my life. And that's a recipe for you to be miserable and successful over the long term, which we also don't want. So here are the 5 things to do in order to make sure that you are balancing your passion and your career as a creator. The first thing is to know the role of the goal. Okay. So here are some big categories that most need, I believe people have. First point, you need to know the roles of the goal. It's my belief that people generally want the same thing, and here are the big categories that people want. If you're only working out one of these, or you're only working out your arms, you're going to get chicken legs. It's important to have areas of your life cover all of these. The first thing is, sure, if you want to make a life as a creator, you need to be able to pay the bills. So if you can't pay the bills, you're going to do the things you need to do to survive. It probably won't be your creative endeavor, your podcast, your YouTube channel, your book, essays, newsletters, that type of stuff. You have to figure out the financial part. You can make money off of creating your podcast. So it takes care of itself. Maybe you hire people and it grows. You have a business there. Or you have a really successful day job that provides enough cash and resources for you to run the show and not have to care about money, right? So there's an example there. Second thing is creative expression, right? So maybe your podcast is a way for you to share something you nerd out about in the world. Again, awesome. And so if you're doing a podcast on your favorite hobby, you're really into Dungeons and Dragons, you have a podcast on Dungeons and Dragons, super awesome. It's not going to be the same experience if you have a podcast on the fundamentals of reading balance sheets on companies. One thing you'll be super passionate about because it's your creative expression. One of the things, and I'm assuming that you're not into the art of reading balance sheets, which there are people out there, so my apologies to you if you were offended there for a quick second. But if your interest was the D&D podcast, and now you're doing this other thing that is dry and not interesting and something you don't want to do, you're going to end up being miserable if you don't figure out how to cover that creative expression. Third big goal is, the legacy, impact, or service, right? So are you creating a YouTube channel that is going to generate generational income, right? That could be a topic. Is it going to change how people think on a particular topic? Is it going to help people act better in their lives? This act of service, this act of legacy, this act of having a lingering and sustained impact out in the world is something we all should have in our lives, whether it is your creative endeavor, maybe it's volunteering at a soup kitchen or doing some type of community service that helps fulfill that need. It's something that we all crave in my belief. The next big goal everyone wants is connection and relationships. So are you writing a book that helps people who are autistic connect? Maybe you have a book in the community that supports the book where people could come and talk about the topic of autism. And you're building relationships with other people that talk about autism. And so you're building a community through your creative endeavor. Or an organization you join. I want to highlight, as we go through these goals, there's a way you could be doing it as your creative job, but also the other ways to fulfill it, which is why I keep bouncing back and forth there. So challenge and relationships is something we need to have in our lives to be happy, healthy human beings. Is your creative endeavor helping you with that? Challenge are there things that are causing you to grow and learn and to expand your capabilities? Without this, you feel stagnant. Are you running a YouTube channel and just dialing it in? Or are you running a YouTube channel and trying to create mini movies once a quarter? Not saying that should be your goal. It could be that you want to, with your creative endeavor, become a better writer, a more clear, concise communicator. That'll help you in the rest of your life. Is the act of sitting down and writing your book helping you with that? Because if you're able to connect how the work is helping you grow, you'll be more motivated to do the work and you'll be more resilient when it's time to face challenges. What in your life is fulfilling that need for growth and progress and challenge? And then finally, health and well-being, right? So many people might dive so deep into creating sculptures or doing their newsletters or their creative things that they don't work out, they don't eat healthy or at all, and eventually that catches up with you. So knowing the roles of the goal is super important. So again, I'm going to ask you in your life, what one of these or a few of these do you expect your creative work to fulfill? Is it supposed to fulfill your finances? Is it supposed to fulfill your creative expression? Is it supposed to fulfill your impact or service to the world? Does it help you build relationships? Does it help challenge you to be a better human being and develop better skills? Or does it challenge you to be healthier and have more be? And if you're like, "Oh, my thing should do everything," it's a huge flag to say. It's putting all your eggs in one basket, and that's not a great thing to do because some of these goals could be in tension with each other, right? So maybe your creative expression, you really want to do a podcast on something hyper focused and not a lot of people are into. Let's say raising bunnies. You want to be a bunny rancher. That's your topic. And if you don't find enough people that want to learn about that topic so that you're not getting enough income in the business part of it, you're going to be really fed up with this thing, even though maybe you really love rabbits and you really love setting up their spaces so that they live happy, healthy lives and they're cute and whatever it is. It's good to have these spread out and also will make you a more well-rounded person in my belief. And that leads me to the second point of this show. Have a holistic approach to life. What are the things you're doing in your life that fulfill these, right? It shouldn't all be your work. In the examples I was running through, maybe financially you have a day job that's providing all the money you need so you can have your creative expression. You go and do the day job 9 to 5, and from 5 to 11, you're you're working on your podcast. So you got that creative expression thing. Maybe the job that you have is you see how it serves people and the work you're doing there is making a huge impact. You're curing cancer. You're operating on doing heart surgery and saving people's lives during your day jobs. Maybe your legacy and service there is fulfilled through your job. But maybe you really enjoy pickleball and you've joined a pickleball league. So you have a pickleball league fulfilling your connection to relationships. And you want to be a better speaker. You joined a speaking club. That's what it is. You joined Toastmasters Club. So you're building relationships with people and you're challenged to figure out how to communicate better. And then maybe for health and being, you're signed up to run a marathon to train your body, get a lot of stress out. That's what we mean by a holistic life. You shouldn't tie everything to your YouTube channel, to your podcast, to the amount of chapters you do each day that you're writing, stuff like that. So the question then is, how do you fulfill each of these goals? Financial, creative expression, legacy, connection, challenge, and health. Pause this, take some notes on this. Not if you're in the car, come back to it and make sure you take some time to journal on this. It's important to figure out what areas in your life, the activities you're doing, what kind of goals that they're leading to be a fully formed human. So the next point to make sure you're balancing your passion and career is to take a look at that list you just created. What areas of your life are fulfilling which goals? And then think what's working, right? What do you absolutely love each of those goals that's helping you feel fully fulfilled? And how can you maybe do more of that in your life, right? That's the coaching questions that come with these. What's working? How could you have more of it in your life? I found that the more I've worked on this podcast, the more I'm finding fulfillment in the creative expression and the connection that I'm making with people that listen and the guests. Part of the goal this year, I've been doing a rebrand, realizing that this podcast is to help me create something out in the world, be proud of something and build relationships because a little bit introverted is extremely helpful. So what that in your world. And so how do you have more in that? And that's the question. I started rambling there. So how can I do more episodes or do them in a way that is more creative, more expressive of myself? Have been the big questions and things I've been working on the last 6 months. The next question is what's not working? The podcast is not helping me in my business the way that I want it to. I need some improvement on that for myself, right? Just I'm doing the coaching, I'm doing the podcast as my full career. So it's got to be able to sustain the message. How does that all come together and work? That's a work in progress. I'll keep you guys updated as I go with that. I don't have a great idea, but I do have a bunch of experiments I'm running right now. So I'd love to keep you guys abreast of those. So what's not working and what outcomes do you need improvement on? If you just took the goals or financial, I need that to be at a certain level. Family, creative expression, I feel good. I'm just doing this as a checklist for myself. Legacy, I think I'm building something pretty cool. And if I'm honest, I'm not reaching the amount of people I thought I would. I had personal goals. Need to figure that out. Connection and relationships, I think this is really going. I feel challenged every day doing this work. And health and being, been really focused on sleep and figuring out how to do activities every day because I work from home. So getting out in the sun and all that. So you'd use that as a checklist from what's working and what's not working. And then 5, think of what you need to do to make changes. What are 3 changes you can do to build a more holistic and meaningful life? So if you found that your YouTube channel is supposed to help you financially with your creative expression, with your legacy, with relationships, with challenging you to grow and also keep you healthy. If anything goes wrong with that, you're going to feel frustrated or overwhelmed. And the name of the game in this type of work is to continue to do this sustainably. And maybe one of the changes that is maybe you figure out how to break up those numerous examples we've already talked. So you can rewind back and check that out. Or maybe you add a hobby to have more creative expression in your life. Or maybe you're like, I need to focus more on my relationships and connecting with people. So maybe I got to join a bowling league or start doing golf, the executives. But this question of what are 3 changes you can make to have a more holistic and meaningful life will help you figure out how to balance being a creator and your career. Your creative endeavors cannot fulfill everything you need in your life, but knowing the role of your book, your podcast, your YouTube channel, how that fulfills your basic human need can lead to better choices. And if you know how to fulfill your main goals, lead to a balanced and motivated career as a creator. If you liked this episode of Meaningful Revolution, please check us out on Apple Podcasts and share this with 2 or 3 people you think needed to hear this today. I appreciate it. Helps the channel grow, helps us grow. And so with that, we'll see you guys in the next episode of the Meaningful Revolution podcast.